The federal government has announced the details of its 10-year national housing strategy, which includes the introduction of a housing benefit for families that won't kick in until after the next federal election. This is a new, innovative plan that re-establishes the role the federal government must play in housing, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said in announcing the plan in Toronto. Housing rights are human rights, everyone deserves a safe and affordable place to call home. The ambitious plan promises to tackle everything from homelessness, the shortage of new housing units and repairs to existing units over the next decade, including. Most of the funding for the plan was already announced in the 2017 budget and will therefore not have any impact on the federal government's fiscal plan. The exception is the $4 billion Canada Housing Benefit, which the federal government says will help families by providing an average rent subsidy of $2,500 annually beginning in April 2020 and concluding in 2028. Half of the $4 billion that will be spent by 2028 will come from the provinces and territories, with the other half coming from the federal government. The government says the benefit will help support 300,000 households by 2028. The strategy was developed with a gender-based analysis and promises to provide affordable housing for senior women and women fleeing domestic abuse. Some 25% of investments under the strategy will be targeted towards women and girls. The strategy also includes a promise to introduce new legislation that will require the federal government to maintain a national housing strategy and report to Parliament on housing targets and outcomes. A new federal housing advocate will be tasked with advising the federal government and the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, CMHC, of possible solutions to the affordable housing shortage. The strategy also promises to create a National Housing Council to help the government keep the national housing strategy on the rails. There will also be a national communications campaign that over a multi-year period would help better inform public views on different housing types and tenures. The strategy includes $15.9 billion for a national housing co-investment fund that will provide $4.7 billion in financial contributions and $11.2 billion in low-interest loans to developers that meet certain criteria, including ensuring that the federal government's support will not come by way of monetary commitments alone, but will include a $200 million transfer of federal lands to housing providers on condition that they meet environmental, socio-economic and affordability standards. This funding envelope will, the government says, help build 60,000 of the promised 100,000 new affordable housing units, repair 240,000 of the 300,000 units in need of renovations, create 7,000 shelter places, 12,000 new affordable units for seniors and another 2,400 affordable units for people with developmental disabilities. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh was critical of the strategy, insisting that the shortage of available housing across the country is a crisis, and pushing off spending until after the next election was not really addressing the seriousness of this crisis. At a time when we need bold action, what we're seeing is basically a timid plan, said Singh.